Welcome to my channel. Right now you are in the right place. Hi, I'm Juliet. If this is your first time, I normally share with you my resin products. And if you've been here, then also this will make sense because I want to share with you the process I normally take, especially when I'm doing a batch process of several things when I'm creating and recording. If you're a crafter and you're here and you've been wondering, how do I record? How do I do the process? This is the right place. This is what I wish I could have found, because most podcasters or the guys who do the talk kind of videos have lots of resources, but crafters on how do you set up your camera, how do you do the process, how do you time it, how do you record it, we don't have a lot of that. This time I'm sharing with you my process, the actual creation. But if you'd like to see my video on my studio setup, my video setup, there's a playlist I'm going to link up about those items, so please check it out as well. It might be helpful for you, especially if you have a small space or small studio, although that can also apply to whatever space you have. On a random day, I was doing my Ramadan video and I was making six different pieces, and I thought, I'm making 6 different pieces at the same time and I'm recording them at the same time. Maybe this is a process someone else would like to know. And I've also done, like when I was doing my sister's wedding and I did wedding favors, and that is different because I was doing the same color, it's just that there were many. So that can apply to that kind of batch processing, but also this kind where you're doing 6 different pieces that are different, using different products, different molds. How do you make that process? But remember, this can also apply when you're making one piece and recording. I'm sharing this from a resin point of view as the medium I use. You can use this as a painter, sculptor, woodwork, even cooking, any of those crafting. I hope this will be valuable for you, and if it is, please subscribe and press the notification bell so that you don't miss out on future videos. And for my short form videos, please follow me on Instagram at Juliet Migwi Inspires. All right, so we'll go this step by step, and as I share the process and some tips as I go along the way. As I was saying, I was going through my normal recording and doing my videos, and I thought, why don't I share this now when I have a chance? So sometimes, even for you, just remember to be open as you go along your process. You can record now. It's better to have recorded than later gone and like, oh, I wish I recorded. Even though you're not editing yet, there's a day you might need it. Sometimes I do that and I'm like, oh no, I wish I recorded. But what I do most of the time is I record the first time I'm using maybe a mold or the first time I'm using a technique, and I use that as my portfolio. And then the next time I make something else, I do the short forms, and that's why I share them on TikTok, Instagram, and sometimes on my shorts on YouTube. So that, because it takes time to actually do a creation while you're recording, because it's not the same like, when you're just doing your thing, hey. This time when you're recording, you have to take sort of record the step by step, especially if they are tutorials. So please be, be impromptu, or always have your camera ready for when you need to do a recording. And sometimes on TikTok or Instagram, that's where you will see the same thing I've done on YouTube, but now you see a different design or a different color or a different take of it, because the actual process is the same. It's just that now this becomes different. And that's what, even if you go onto my website to buy, you will see different colors, different types than what you will see on YouTube, because I have now derivatives or variations of the same. If you're using molds, for example, or you're using materials like your wood, whatever it is you're using on resin, consider what you're using. What material are you using? Do you have it? You have to buy it. Sometimes that is what is affected, and like I have to get something on Amazon. But now I've discovered Temu. Please check the card above where I share for you how my Temu haul as a crafter, crafting supplies, molds on Temu. So please check the card above and see my haul. And as I tell you, there's some tips and tricks on how to get some nice deals on Temu. So yes, consider the mold you're using. So have it ready. If it's wood, for example, are you taping it at the back? Are you painting it in advance? What is the size? What is the setup going to be for the camera? I always use an overhead camera most of the time when I'm creating, and a side one. So what's your setup going to be? So be ready for that. My Edelkrone Standplus. This is how it helps me do multiple creations at the same time, because I don't have to be just under overhead camera here, because I would be restricted to using this space. But with it, I can move my camera around and I'm able to record all this at the same time without having to wait. Woohoo! Edelkrone Standplus. Check the video on it. Also, please plan the sequence of how you're going to create. If, for example, in this case, I had 6 pieces, I had to organize what am I doing first as I talk, what am I saying. So have that planned out. I'm talking now about resin as the medium. So what resin are you using? So depending on the resin you're using, it will affect what amounts you're mixing. Are you doing 2:1? Are you doing a 3:1? The people who use resin, you know what I mean. That's epoxy into ratio into hardener. Which resin are you doing? Because that will affect how much resin you make and in what portions or proportions per each. And as you see, I normally have this written out so that I have it and I remember. For example, I have this Mesco one. I know I need to do 2:1 ratio, these different types. And like this one has a short pot life of 20 minutes, all the rest are about 45 to 60. So this reminds me, sometimes you forget, you know, as us guys are getting older, you forget what proportions to divide the hardener and the epoxy. So this helps. Consider each piece, how much resin does it need? And this for the coasters, for example, I make, like now when I'm making the Independence Day videos, and that's throughout the year, I've just written the amounts I need for each, so that every time I'm measuring out, I don't have to keep going back to my notebook. And then for this specific video that I was making for Ramadan deco ideas, this is how I put down the design, the colors I'm going to mix, so that I know what colors I'm mixing and the amounts. And then it tells me with this, I'm only making 130 at once. I'm not dividing it to day 1 or day 2. And then I'm not mixing colors, so that I know for this 130, I'm dividing it for white, let's say for gold, it's 1. So for this one, is not as complicated because it's a solid color. And then, so now, because I'm making this all at once and the pot life of the resin is long, I'm going to come and calculate all the resins here, the total, and in this case, in this case, it's 900 the total, and I'm using this art resin one, and I'm making, let's say, I'm dividing 2 into 1, so I know I'm going to make one 300 and the other 600. So when I'm pouring, then I'll just look at this and pour, and then after that I'll show you where now the cups I divide for each. I set them down for dividing each of these. So planning in advance makes it easier on the day you're planning. So sometimes you can wake up and just decide to do something, but when you're doing something complicated, you really have to plan, like even the day before. Make sure you have your molds, you have enough resin, you have time. Like now I'm making these Ramadan decos today. I had planned on it, which means I have enough time even to do this video that is impromptu. I just thought about it because I'm like, no one taught me this, so maybe it might help someone else. Like yesterday, the other day when I was doing this, they're the ones I was telling you, this and several others. Let me show you. This and these others that I've covered here, and you check the playlist and you'll see this when I was tired. So don't do this when you're not tired. Have enough time. And when I have extra resin, I normally put it like in this, and I'll show you how I use it in the Ramadan video. I make my coasters for the Independence Day in advance so that I record before the next month has come. So I have to plan for this. You see, I have planned. I know what colors, which country, for example Mauritius, what colors are the flags. Am I going to use this for any other country, you know, like that. Several of them at a go, and others are yet to come. So it's quite a lot of planning. For example, when you've mixed your resin and you've mixed one color, like white, in my case here I used a lot of white. How are you proportioning this white into the other pieces? Like in this case there were 6 pieces, some of them were using white. How am I proportioning this? And because of how many you're proportioning, this also affects how many cups do you need. What cup, for what amount, for what piece, what colors am I using for this? So even the cups now will affect how you're proportioning and what colors you're using in. So you plan it out. You also then plan the colors. See, like in this case, I've put the colors of the items I'll use in advance, so they're out here. I've taken them from my storage there. Yeah, so I have them here, so I know in this case what I'm using for what. I note it down on my board here so that when I'm mixing I don't make a mistake. Sometimes you get confused, so you plan it in advance, but sometimes you change your mind. You know, like I wanted to use this white, then I'm like, oh no, I want to use white pearl, let me use dazzling gold. So you keep changing as it's needed, because you're the creator, and sometimes if something is not working, just change instead of just going on because you said it. And you can always write in the video, and I always say in the video, I decided instead of doing this to change the color I was going to use. Are you going to use this resin all at once, or are you making this product in phases? For example, if you're doing some today and some tomorrow, you can't make all the resin for today. So if, for example, something needs 200 ml of resin, if you're going to create today and continue tomorrow, you have to decide today I need 100. So when you're making the resin, mixing it, you're mixing only 100 and then the other 100 the next day, because resin can't be made and stored. It cures if it's not used. Also remember, as you make this resin, what's the pot life, so that you don't make so much and it cures in the pot before it's time to use, even as you make this difference. So you have to know what's the resin's pot life. When I was talking about pot life and knowing the time you have, this is what happened to me. This is what happens to resin when it cures too soon in the container. That's what I was talking about. In my case, I was distracted because I was doing something slowly, and my 20 minutes pot life got finished, and this is what happened. It froze. I didn't even have a chance to record because I was like, you know. So this is what happens. It actually gets hot, froths. See how it's burnt this, and frothed over, and then became hard. You can't even use it. See? So these are waste of resin, a waste of time, because then I have to make more to finish my work, and also you waste money. It has never happened to me like this before, this much. It happened. All right, I mentioned about considering pot life. In this case, like when I was doing these Ramadan videos, I had to use a pot life that's about 45 to 60 minutes because it was going to take long. I was doing several things at the same time. For example, when I'm creating my Independence Day coasters, I normally use a potlife that is about 25 minutes because it doesn't take me too long. Once I've divided it out, I just pour it out, and because I don't want it to blend too much so that the flag colors don't blend in too much, I want resin that has short pot life. Also, when I'm layering, I don't want to do it too long, so I want to use resin that is doesn't take too long to cure, so that I can layer, then come back with the next layer and then the next layer. So you need to know, have an idea, what are you doing with resin, so that you know what pot life or resin you are using. Set out the cups for each colors. What cup is using what colors and what amounts are going to be in each color. Sometimes it gets very complicated. Maths comes in. You have to decide, okay, this cup is this, or let's say 1 ounce, or that's 15 ml, so I can only put this much. I need to add later. It really gets complicated, but once you get the flow of it, you get a rhythm, you learn how to do it. Unless it's alcohol inks or acrylic paints, I dish this out in advance, and that's what I'm telling you about planning. Because, for example, with this gold, I will see how much mica I need to put, because you can't put too much. You need to put a certain amount per piece. So in this case, I'm putting just a little because it's going to just be a light mica, because I'll add alcohol ink in this, so I won't put too much. But then, for example, in this one, you can see it, that's supposed to be full gold. I'll put more because I want it to be a full cover gold. So of the same, so depending on what you're making, it changes how you're dishing out the different things, the different colors. And then you just have this ready to mix, because then after this, you put in the resin inside. And also for micas, I always find it, they mix better when you put the mica in first instead of it floating. So it sinks, so it's under, then you just mix it on everything else. So that's it. So I keep doing that for all of them, and then now I mix. The only one I'll mix at the end is the alcohol ink. I'll put after the resin is inside, because alcohol ink evaporates. One thing I can advise you, when you're working with resin, I normally put on 3 gloves, 3 pairs of gloves. Why? Like now this one is messy. Instead of having to go and wear another one, I just remove this. It's messy and has resin, it's sticky. I don't want it to stick to everything else. I just remove this and throw that out, and I'm left with this clean set. And then I still have another one under for protection, so that if I remove this maybe in between, I can just wear the other one on top, so that my hands are never touching resin. And normally I'll always wear a face mask, but for today, because I'm speaking through this one's off, then I don't have a mask because I'm speaking through, because I think doing voiceover for this will be more complicated as things are coming up as we go along. And so now let me show you what I meant about alcohol inks. So I then just, should always shake it, make sure it's mixed up nicely, and then I wanted to add that into our mix. So I'll just add a little, some drops, because I wanted to have that. And for this white, I also wanted to just add a little casting craft to just make the white more deeper. Yes, so those are the ones I normally put in after. And so I'll mix this. So normally just use a stick, mix. And this is especially for a beginner, or someone who's been doing this and wondering how to make it, to make the processes easier for yourself. So after this, what I do is do the actual project. And so I won't show you more of these. Please check out the video that I made, Ramadan decoration ideas, because this was what that was all about, and you'll see where all the golds and the whites and all this go. The other thing, don't forget, you need to remember time. when you're creating something, be ready to have enough time, especially when you're doing a big batch. One, so that you can catch mistakes or react, because sometimes I'm thinking, oh, this one is going to take me 30 minutes, in 1 hour I'll be done. Then something happens and I have to finish, you know, I have to go on. The other thing is, once you mix resin, you have to wait, and you can't wait until later because it cures. So once you have to have time. Once you do it at that time. And when we're talking time, we're also talking about the planning before, so that it can make it easier for your process. Something else to remember, please, especially when you're doing a big batch, try and do it when you are well rested. Why? You've seen all the maths that have to go into all this. Sometimes you do the maths. I try to do the maths the day before, so that on the day I'm just coming to actually just portion out and do it. Because sometimes when I do the maths on that day and unless I'm doing very early, I'm not an early person. Normally I do my creations from the afternoon into the night. I'm a night owl. So I do the day before. So when I do, it's time for actioning. So remember to be rested. 2, when you're rested, it's easy to catch problems and to react, to deal with problems. Like when I was doing these Ramadan ones, I was so well rested. I was doing like this, you know, like a pro. And I think that's why I even got the idea to start on this video for you. But the other thing is, when I was doing, check my playlist, when I was doing my white collection, the trays and the jars and the 3-tier tray, I was not as rested. So I ended up taking so long. So it also makes you stay longer when you're thinking. You have to stop and think, okay, where was I? What was I doing? What was here? So rest well. So above all, plan. If you want to have a smooth go at creating, even when you're not recording, plan. And even in planning, sometimes I put some notes down so that I remember during the video, when I'm recording, what do I need to mention? For example, you've had today, I mentioned the Timu video, and I had to remember that. My playlist have mentioned that. I need to, so as you go along the way, it becomes easier. But for example, because I've not done a talking video, too many talking videos recently, I've been doing more of creating. Sometimes the script, the flow goes. So I do a script. Like now, I have a script. If you need to have your script down, or have a board where you can actually check what you need to say, it's better to pause, take a moment, because you can always edit it out.
I love my remarkable too. I shared with you, there's a playlist on, especially as a crafter, where you need to get yourself one. And when I was talking about scripts, I love it because on the go, I can just come. If I think about the topic, I want to change it up, I can just change it up and just write it down, how to organize molds, and check the card above. I'll share one for you. And if I think of something else I want to add in my script, I can say, for example, in my new workshop, I can note that down. Then when I'm organizing my script, I have it already down. I like it that maybe if I want to change what comes first, I can move this around, and just organize my notes and have them ready, and check the details on how you can have it on landscape, put it up, and it makes life easy when I'm creating or recording a video.
The other thing is, it also helps you remember what is even the title of your video. What is the video for? So it helps you as you plan, as you record. Everything, when you plan, everything becomes smoother and easier. And after finishing the work, there's nothing as nice as coming to tick off the work that you've done and that it's complete. I know we're just going to be rubbing off, but there's nothing as nice as completing that, because then I come back to my notes or to my to-do list and I tick off, and then I'm happy. Work accomplished. And I hope you have found this valuable. If you have, please subscribe and press the notification bell. And if you want my short form videos, please follow me on Instagram, on TikTok at Juliet Migwi Inspires. If you found this valuable, please let me know in the comment section below. If you have any questions for me, please also ask me in there, or DM me on Instagram or TikTok at Juliet Migwi Inspires. God bless you, Barakatele. See you on my next video.